When it comes to weight loss, no two people are the same. That's why Noom builds personalized plans based on your unique psychology and biology. Take Brittany. After years of unsustainable diets, Noom helped her lose 20 pounds and keep it off.
I was definitely in a yo-yo cycle for years of just losing weight, gaining weight, and it was exhausting.
And Stephanie. She's a former D1 athlete who knew she couldn't outtrain her diet, and she lost 38 pounds.
My relationship to food before Noom was never consistent.
And Evan. He can't stand salads, but he still lost 50 pounds with Noom.
I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. Even through the pickiness, Noom taught me that building better habits builds a healthier lifestyle. I'm not doing this to get to a number. I'm doing this to feel better.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom users compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Well, hey there, sweet peas. Welcome back to Friendless, the show that tries to teach you how to be a better friend while I lose every friend I have. I'm your pal James Avermako, back once again, this week with special guest Gavin Mac. Gavin is one of my newest but fastest friends, and I was so excited to get them on the show. We discuss getting rid of straight friends, how to handle demanding friends, and whether or not you are one, and we give a little sneak peek into a writing project that the two of us are concocting. Gavin is absolutely magic, and I just adore them, and I think you will too. So without further ado, let's dive right in with my interview with Gavin Mac here on Friendless. So welcome to the show, a dear new friend who I met through the Metamorphosis series, and who has just been a source of like inspiration and joy very recently in my life. The one, the only Harper Gavin. How the fuck are you today?
Hello, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
Just relaxing, just trying to, I guess.
yeah,
The most that I can.
existing, you know.
Yeah, just existing. Which is okay. I don't know. I feel like there are weeks that you just have to exist and then you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, we were talking actually recently with a friend of mine about how like your best uh isn't static, right? Your best is just like what you could do that day, and it always is
Yeah.
changing, you know. And so
Yeah.
like sometimes your best is like I sat up today, you know.
I have a pin that says left the house. And I love that.
Literally,
It's so funny. It's so funny. Left the house.
it's it's so on point.
Yeah.
One of my coworkers actually was he had discovered these like spectrum disorder communication pins that he was trying to position as like we should use this for like communication with students and stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, obviously, like he had
Yeah.
thought this was this like kind of radical discovery like for holistic brains, and I was like, no, this is like an inclusion thing that we should
Yeah.
have been doing
That's just
before
like
already.
normalize it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
totally.
to kind of to get us launched in, just for listeners who may not be familiar with you or might not know who you are, I will put it as bluntly as I possibly can. Who the hell are you?
And like, is it like 3 words or less or something?
Mm.
Something like
It is a podcast. It is as many words as you want.
that. I guess like facts. 27. I'm a ginger, and I'm a Pisces. Those are the three main things. And I'm a stoner, I
Facts.
guess. Facts. These are facts. Hard facts. They're not changing. Those are not ever changing. Even
Yeah,
though I am. Those are the things that stay pretty consistent.
I love
Um,
it.
that's really about it. I guess I'm just kind of. I always find that if I like describe myself or if I think about myself for too long, which I try not to do, is like I just feel like I'm meandering, just kind of
Sure.
through life and like through people, I guess. And I just kind of exist. I'm just kind of there.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if
I
that's
mean,
like a little bit more negative or positive, but I don't want to think too hard about it.
yeah.
So I just hop around.
I mean, personally, I find that wonderful, and I think that that's really like, in a way, that's like almost like a Zen cone. You know what I mean?
I think so.
It's a very, it is a form of enlightenment to be like, to sort of release these desires and these productivities. And and I know you and I, and I'm sure we'll talk about it further, like I know you and I both get like very trapped in cycles at
Oh my
times of
God,
not
yeah.
doing enough or doing too much or any of those things. But like to actively try to center yourself or sort of like reset yourself at just existence,
Just
I
existence.
think.
I'm pretty good
Yeah.
with that. I feel like it's better
Yeah.
than constant anxiety or guilt. Guilt
Mhm.
is definitely a big one that I feel, but it takes so much out of me. Like my plans change on a
Mhm.
day-to-day basis because like of that feeling. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like I get sucked way too deep into like what is it? Like giving into like that voice in your head, like that id,
Yep.
is that what it is? Like the three and like I give in to like my impulses a lot.
Definitely.
And then I try to balance that out with like pushing myself to do things because like I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of people, including me, like I just said at times, but don't push themselves enough sometimes. So I don't
Mhm.
know. I try to balance it out by just, you're right, like getting up or just like leaving the house to smoke some weed and
Yeah.
then going back upstairs.
Fuck yeah.
And then that's my day off.
Yep, that's exactly right. Well, and that's so interesting too, right? Because it's like, the way we internalize like what is productivity and it's like the fact that we even value the term productivity, I think is already a problem, right?
Yeah.
It doubles back to this whole thing of like so much of our lexicon has been like mutated over the last couple decades of like we're not citizens anymore, we're consumers, right? And like we're
Oh,
not and it's like,
yeah.
and that releases us of certain duties that are sort of evoked by a term like citizen, and that endorses our behavior in certain ways as being consumers or customers
Yeah.
or clients or whatever, and you know it may not necessarily feel completely radical to you, but like when you sort of pull the lens back a little bit, like by allowing yourself that liberty, it is like I see those as radical acts, and people want to shame them because it removes you from the productivity line,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Because of like that traditional like aspect. I there's two things. So going back to like doing the best you can with where you're at. When I actually my partner, my live-in partner, and I talk about this or have been talking about it a lot because my aunt, when I was so I'm 27 now, so my aunt got me this glass um or ceramic, sorry, quote, and I think it was like Thomas Edison or something like that. It was like some famous white man, and the quote, I'll probably mix it up, but do the best you can with where you're at with what you got. And I've had
Mm.
that for years. Like I've hung it everywhere. And
Mhm.
when I moved into this apartment with my partner, it fell and it broke. And I was so upset. Like I've had that for a really long time. It's one of the only things that I've carried with me that I was able to from moving one coast to the other. Like
Yeah.
I really protected it. And then when I first moved here, I wasn't able to hang it up. And
Mm.
I finally did. And that it was the same day that it broke. Or like I think we had left for vacation, or it was something like that. Like we had just like came in the door,
Yeah.
fell and it
And
broke.
it
And
dropped.
I was so upset. And like I got really upset. And I
Yeah.
think part of it was that it was like a reminder that I would see it like all the time. But because I got it so
Mhm.
young, it was something, I don't know. I think it ties in with my ADHD that like I think I give
Sure.
in too much to just being like, oh, this is the best that I can do.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I think I'm trying to reframe that in a way where like I'm still moving forward. Not maybe I try to like I'm trying not to say being productive. I want to say moving
Hmm.
forward.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and how do I move forward?
Yeah.
um, while also just like not doing it because I care about what you think or what like my friends think or my partners think or my bosses, but like what's gonna make me feel better.
For you. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like fuck everybody else, honestly.
Well, and that's sort of the other side of that coin, isn't it? Right? Where it's like, you're spot on. It's not about productivity, but it's like, and I don't want to say you need to do something with your day because you don't actually need to do anything, but like I find when I do nothing with my day, but I do have the capacity to do something,
Yeah.
those are often the darkest days because I'm anxious and I'm itchy and I'm vibrating and I
Right.
have energy to expend, but I don't use it. And I think sometimes in those days I'll tell myself, "Oh, well, like work on something productive," and then I'll end up feeling really soul empty. But like if you channel that into, like
Soul
you say, just
empty.
doing something that you want,
Yeah.
those end up being the best days,
That's
and
ADHD.
yeah, well,
I
that's just it,
am
isn't it?
not
Right? Yeah,
I'm not pushed to do something I don't want to do because I'm not going to enjoy it. But if it's all day of
literally.
things that I want to do, I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to be good at it and like
Yep,
it's going to be a good day.
yep, big time, big time.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the the way we met was through the Metamorphosis series that a mutual friend of ours, Zoe, hosted, and
Love Zoe.
you and just
Heart
adore.
eyes. Heart eyes for Zoe.
Um, what's that?
I said heart eyes for Zoe.
Big hard eyes, just like
Yeah.
cartoon bawoogas,
Yeah, it's true.
but you were doing these little micro tattoos, these little tiny flash
I
tattoos
was. Yes, I
for the
was.
second session. I'll get it on, I don't know if you can get it on camera. I've got a tiny
You
little
still got
diamond.
them.
I've still got it and I absolutely love it.
They kind of
Um
match. They kind of match with the three that I have.
Love it. Oh, and I just like I love it so much. I went through a tiny little moment in July where I really didn't love it
Yeah, I
because
know.
they were matching
You
tattoos
told me.
and yeah, but
I'm glad you moved past it though, because it's cute.
yes. Yeah. Well, and and that relationship has shifted and so like the connection to the tattoo and
Yeah.
to that person like has changed, so it's like it's that pressure has lightened. I'm no longer like thinking about like could I get through my day without a ring finger?
Oh my gosh.
That's
Oh,
a that's one of those invasive, what do they call it? Intrusive thoughts.
yeah. Be like, what if I just chop my finger off right now?
What
How
if
would
I
that
just
feel?
did it?
What
What
if
if
I
I
just
just
did it? What
cut
would
my finger
happen?
off? Right?
Just girly things. Just girly things. Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Just girly thoughts.
yeah.
But I'm curious, like what kind of brought you to doing these tattoos? What inspired you to do it? And where are thoughts of taking it, if any?
Oh, I had a friend in Halifax who is a super great artist, and he did my ghosties, the ones that are on my thumbs, and
Mm-hmm.
then he did the sun, and like he did a bunch of stick and poke on me, and he did my favorite one, which is on my arm, and it says "Cis
Mm.
men ain't shit." And it is my favorite tattoo on my body. And I don't know, I saw this. I've always loved tattoos, and I saw that I could do it. Like he was doing
Mm.
it, and like he's a great artist, and I'm not. So I didn't for a long time. Like I don't love visual art. If it makes like I
Mm.
don't love doing it. I
Right.
don't find that I'm technically very good at it. And then that's also the part of the thing, like a positive of meeting Zoe and like Metamorphosis is because there was a conversation of like what is art, and
Mm-hmm.
art like really is just things that like mean something to you, and so that was also helpful. I think having actually, I think if I'm just processing now, typical
Yeah.
ADHD brain, I think finding out about Metamorphosis, because I didn't know Zoe until after the like around the second one. So there's three.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I went to the second one, but I didn't know about the first one. Or I think I did, but I wasn't close enough with Zoe to really inquire much about what was happening.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, I didn't allow that friendship to bloom until after that. But I think when we sat down and had a drink about it, or I had a drink for the first time and she was telling me about it, it really triggered a lot of things in my head. I grew up going to Catholic school, which was like art wasn't really a focus, and if it was pretty rigid, and I didn't like it, and I wasn't good at it. I was more an English person, so it was fine. But then after my friend had done these really cool tattoos on my hand, I saw that I could also just have this because I love chaos. I like impulse decisions. I love that. I try not to
Yeah.
shame myself too much about doing that.
Fuck yeah.
So he taught me, or he didn't teach me, but I saw the tools that he was using. And when I moved to Vancouver, my sibling was like, "Oh, hilarious! I have a stick and poke set. Like it's just like one that you could just like." And I was like, "Sick!" So then I started doing some stick and poke, and I did my whole, like most of my hand while I was living with my sibling. They let me do a couple on them, and moved to my knee. Then I started doing stuff on my knee, and then when I moved in with my old roommate, I finally was like, I'm just gonna get a gun. Like I'm just gonna get a tattoo or like a pen, because I had a couple friends that said that the pen specifically that they were using was fine. Like it's nothing special. It's just
Sure.
like
But
it's
it
not
does
like
really
a
fun. It does kind of what you're
yeah.
building. It's the
I
aesthetic that you're
don't
building,
want
right?
to
Yeah,
do these like huge tattoos. I don't really want it to be
totally.
incredibly elaborate. I really don't want that. I don't mind if people don't pay me. I've had people bake
Mhm.
me cookies, roll me joints. Like that's fine. And like the whole thing is me sharing a moment. Like that's kind of how I
Yeah.
feel. Where like I went to a party and I got a tattoo. Like that's cool. Like that's so
Yes.
cool. And it's an experience that I didn't have growing up.
Yeah.
I did a lot of chaotic stupid shit, but like getting a tattoo as a teenager was not one of those things.
Me neither.
Not that I would tattoo teenagers, but I just mean like
Yeah.
it's just like going to I didn't go to like a lot of parties in university. Like it was mostly just like with my friends.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really like a partier.
Mhm.
And now I don't know. I think half of it is like I want to offer something. There's definitely like a small aspect of that. But also
Sure.
like fuck yeah, I went to a fucking party and I got a tattoo from this
Yeah.
like chaos reigning person and I let people know I'm like I don't know if the lines are gonna be super straight. Like I'm not sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like I can do a planet really well. I can do a good
Yep.
question mark. I'm good at letters, dots, obviously.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
That's really kind of what I want, and I want queer and trans people to like not have to pay a lot of money to have like something really fun and cool.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it is a moment. So in this
And
like
it
fucked
was.
up world where it's chaos and it's stupid and awful and wonderful at times, I suppose, but I don't think enough to make it all worth it sometimes. It's like just get a tattoo. Like just let me give you a tattoo. Like I'll do an X. Like let me do a little X or like a question mark. Like fuck it. Just fuck it. Just do it.
Yep. It's this beautiful, it's funny because obviously there is an a section of it that there's pain involved, obviously, because there's needles, yada yada. But it's like it's a very cathartic kind of pain. I've really grown to really love. I would have so many more tattoos if I could afford them,
Oh yeah, me
but
too.
like because I find it very um yes, it hurts, but it's like good pain,
It's a good
and
hurt.
yeah,
It's a
and
good
and
hurt.
and what's more than the pain is that there's, like, an intimacy, like, you're being touched so
Yeah.
delicately, and you're being perceived so with such focus by the
Yes.
artist, and,
Yeah.
like, you become a canvas, and it's a very beautiful experience, my whole arm, every one that I have on this right arm was by the same, artist in Saskatoon, and I kept going back to her because she was so good, and she was so, like, she just made me feel special,
Yeah.
and that was the same experience I had with you when you gave me my little finger tattoo, was that it
Oh,
was
that's really
like
sweet.
it
That's
was
really
it
nice to
was just
hear.
this it was such a magic little moment, and
Yeah.
and like you say, it was that experience of me being able to be like, yeah, I went to this show and I just got this tattoo and
I
it
just got a
fucking ruled,
tattoo. Yeah.
and
I
I
just
I
did
want to
it.
do that all the time now because
Yeah.
of that experience,
Yeah. 100%. I like I like the pain. Yeah, it's the good hurt. Um, because I don't know. I feel like if there's not like an intense sometimes I need like an intense physical feeling
Yes.
to remember something because my memory is awful.
Yep.
So I need there to be something extra to remind me by or
Hmm.
to remind me of the situation or the experience. Um, yeah, totally. I definitely feel that's why I aim more towards queer and trans, obviously 'cause I'm queer and trans, but like like we get paid disproportionately, don't have a lot of like time on our hands or too much time
Hmm.
because nobody will hire us a lot of the time.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like, give me $5 or like roll a joint for me or like buy me a drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like let's just do that
Yeah.
instead. Um, it just feels like a better like don't
I
give me
love
your
it.
money. Like don't do that. Just
Yeah.
let's like keep keep it going. That's
I mean,
fine.
money sucks. Bartering's where it's at,
Exactly.
like it's,
Exactly.
just keep it within like needs, right? And go from
Yes.
there.
Exactly.
That sort of leads me into one of the sort of core questions of the show. We'll get to the sort of more granular questions of friendship in a moment, but like, I'm really curious. Something I've been starting to unpack recently with these new interviews is this question of community. And you've brought up talking about queer and trans communities and questions of representation, questions of equity, and all these things. And when I start to unpack what community means to me, I realize that it's a really nebulous term, and it's really like it can mean so many things, just
Yeah.
like friend can, right? And so, on my sort of quest to find out what it means today, I guess I'll put the question to you. First part being, what does community mean to you, as a term or as a concept or just as a feeling or anything like that?
Um, I think the reality and the feeling that I have are not the same, and
Mm.
I don't. But in saying that, I don't think I give a lot to community. Like
Mm.
if we're talking about community as in the queer community where I live, then like I'm not super involved. But
Sure.
I mean, at the same time, like I don't know if I have to be involved.
And
I
what does
think
being
it's
involved even mean?
yeah, I think like I think showing up and being involved are different. I think I don't necessarily worry about being involved, but I think showing up, I think I need to do a little bit better to like push
Sure.
myself to do.
Sure.
But I don't know. My queer community is like my friend group. Like I
Hmm.
don't have a lot of straight friends. I
Yeah.
purposely curate, actually, if we're being completely honest, purposely curate my friend group so there's no straight people. Now there's cis people apparently. Apparently I'm just into cis people, but they can stay, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, since I moved to Vancouver, I was like, nah, I guess you could stay. Um, but um, yeah, I don't want to be around straight people, straight up. I
Hmm.
don't.
Hmm.
And I think because I'm around queer people all the time, that's my community.
Yeah.
Like like my work friends are my community, specifically my queer work friends.
Hmm.
Um, my community are the people that I spend a lot of time with.
Hmm.
Um, but I think we talked about this when we were at the park about a month ago, that
Hmm.
it's not easy for me to make friends. It's not
Yeah.
easy for me to
Same.
step out of my comfort zone. Not that it's easy for anybody, but it's not easy for me to do that. And making friends is such a vulnerable
Oh
thing,
yeah.
and especially when you're in your own community, I find it really difficult to be like, this is how I fit into community, and
Yeah.
there's always an aspect of like whether or not somebody's going to accept me.
Hmm.
And then it kind of circles back to like, fuck you. Like, I've paid my
Yeah.
dues. I've been
Fuck
called the
yeah.
T word. I've been called the fag. Like, I've been,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've gone through that shit. I've had
Fuck yeah.
family like not like it. I've gone through misgendering. I've paid my trans dues. Not that anybody should pay
Sure.
them, but I've paid those
No.
dues. I don't really need anybody to
Hmm.
think that I don't belong, because I know I do.
Of
And I'm
course you
happy that
do.
I can just be like, fuck you.
Well,
Um,
and that actually speaks to something that speaks to something even deeper that I've been really working with my therapist, which is this idea of like unpacking that there is no reason for things; things just happen. And so, like, so finding your fit.
kind of hate that.
Well, it's actually it's really joyful. It's really joyful. It's like it's essentially like it's reframing absurdism or nihilism, but with joy. And which actually, the more you read like someone like Camus, you realize that he's actually deeply funny. He's just French, you know. So it's hard. It's hard
I
for
grew up
him,
on the
you know.
East Coast. I know exactly what that means.
Right, exactly, right,
Yeah.
and he's just a little too blunt, but there's a lot of joy behind it, and there's a lot of goofiness behind it, and what my therapist and I work through is this idea that like there's no meaning to anything. Things don't happen for reasons. And when we start to think of relationships as puzzles, that implies that there's a solution. And there isn't one. There's just what you experience and then what meaning you put on it. And so what I would say when I hear you talk about like finding fit is that you already fit because there is no puzzle to fit into, and you have your group, and you are beloved within that group, you know, and that, you know, I mean, I know personally speaking, I cherish our friendship, and I recognize that we're still very new in terms of like depths of knowledge of each other, but that doesn't diminish like the feeling of connection that I have with you, you know?
Yeah.
And one thing that I often kind of, I think I oscillate between, but I think I would prefer to lean towards like it's not about, it's almost like what's it called, like that, like time cost, it's like sunk time fallacy stuff of like, well, we have to be friends because we've been friends for 10 years, so we have to still be friends. and
Right.
and and it's more about like, no, right now in this moment where I am, I would like, you know, the energy of Gavin over the energy of someone who I've known for 15 years, you know? And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no
That's fair.
reason, it's just the impulse, it's the feeling of the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I think I struggle. I was actually talking with my friend last night when I was getting very drunk, and we had our day at work, and we just like wanted to just drink as much
Fuck
alcohol
yeah,
as we
why
could
not?
until we had to
Hell
go
yeah.
home. And I think um, where was I going with that? Oh my God, ADHD memory, ADHD.
The
Oh,
like spider web.
um, I don't realize that I don't tell people things about who I
Mm.
am, and reasons for things, I suppose. About a month ago, actually, I think I was telling you this too. About a month ago, I was having a conversation with my partner, and we're going through the boxes when I had moved in, and I still have a couple of things from my previous relationship, my long-term relationship. We were together for almost 4 years, and there's a lot of deep love there.
Of course.
And we showed each other how we loved each other with like photos and writing letters to each other, writing notes. And it's
Mm.
really sweet. So I keep it.
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't know if I should, but I pulled it out, and
I
then
still have stuff like that.
yeah, you know, like it's really I have a lot of his art on my walls, by the way.
Cute. I
He's
love
an
that.
incredible artist, so like whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I was explaining to my partner kind of the start to the end, or
Mhm.
you know, looking back in hindsight, like what was the start to the end.
Mm.
And I looked at him, and he was like super wide-eyed. And I was like, what? And he's like, you've never told me this. We've been together for a year. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, like I didn't even realize, because I know it happened. And
Yes, yeah.
I've talked about it, but I didn't realize it wasn't with him.
Mhm.
And he was like, you don't talk about you. He's like, you say things, but I don't think you're like really divulging much. Like you're just like, he's like, you talk about some of your experiences, I guess, but I think what is missing is how I feel about it, and like that
Right.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, it already happened. So I
Yeah.
don't want to like get too deep into it, but
Yeah.
I forget that that's how he connects, and that's how people connect. And even last
Sure.
night I told my friend, who I have known longer than I've known my partner, not by much, and not that that's even something that matters, but we know
Sure.
each other really well. And she was like, I've never heard this either. And I didn't realize. I think
Yeah.
because it's in my head, I'm like, yeah, we broke up. I just think that's like the important thing. But it was really helpful because she was like, I don't think it's not. I think you're thinking that it's important why you broke up. I think the
Mhm.
point is that you're going to share it. Like the
Yes.
what you're saying doesn't matter. It's the fact that you're telling us, and like you're saying something.
Yeah.
And I think this goes into like, I don't really perceive myself as like, I'm like, yeah, things just happen to me. And I think almost like my other partner would hate this, but like a jellyfish, like it's just kind of like, it's like transparent. I
Sure.
always feel like I'm transparent, and people are like, absolutely not. I sometimes joke that I want to be mysterious, and I'm definitely not that because I don't shut up. But like the things that I'm sharing is not really,
Sure, sure.
it's not
That's the
necessarily something that you can like, they're like, the Harper's just saying, saying words. And like, or like nothing
the
too,
word makes the curtains, you know?
yeah. So, um, And I don't realize I do that. I didn't realize I do that until I moved here, and I have
Mm.
friends that are like, nah, I didn't know that about you. Like you don't
Yeah.
talk about things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I found that very interesting because
Yeah.
I thought I've always been like an open book, but I have come to find out that I'm not. And I was
Well,
also talking to my friend about how like I feel closer to my personality now moving to Vancouver than I did when I was in Halifax, because I think when I was on the East Coast with the relationship that I was in, I not that it was bad, but I had a pressure, an internal pressure, and I think an external pressure. I hope he doesn't hear this if he does, but I think it was an external pressure that I wanted to be liked and I wanted to be likable. So I feel like I shifted parts of who I was, and now I'm not that person. I'm not unkind, but I don't
no.
pretend to be like a warm person right off the bat. I can
Mm,
be,
mhm.
but like I'm really mood based. Like I'm like I really don't I have no problem not wanting anything to do with you if I don't know you.
Yes.
And like
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about being your friend. Like I don't.
Mhm.
I don't feel the need to be nice to every single person that I come across, or
Mhm.
open. Like I'm not
Yes.
taking that emotional stress on. Like I don't want to be
Mhm.
one of those people that's like, you can talk to me about anybody can talk to me about anything. I'm like, no, no, you can't do
Yeah.
that. I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to care about your life.
That's such a beautiful boundary. Like,
I don't want to
I don't
care
hear
about
that
it.
as selfish. I don't hear that as selfish even in the
Yeah.
slightest. I find that actually very admirable. That's a trait I wish I could emulate because I'm somebody who I definitely fawn and I definitely let people use me as a sounding board, and then I become dysregulated and exhausted and I go, why the fuck did I encourage that? Like, because now suddenly I'm mad at you for doing something that I told
Yeah.
you were allowed to do. Like, I
Yeah.
allowed this. This is
I
my
still trap
fault,
myself
you
into
know?
doing it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's mostly with people. Then I can feel like I can set a boundary. Like,
Mm,
it's with friends where I'm like, yeah, and I don't say I'm overexerting myself, but
sure.
I, I think honestly, like my mom growing up was always trying to be like devil's advocate, and I think that's what I struggle with too. And like that's
Sure.
really the thing where I'm like, I try to see something from somebody else's point of view, which I think is a healthy trait. Don't get me wrong. I think people should do it.
Absolutely.
Oh my god. But the amount of times I don't want to fucking do that. Like I don't want to fucking do it. I really
Yes,
don't.
yes.
And it makes me feel cold. Also because I've had people be like, "Are you mad at me?" I'm like, "No, has nothing to do with you. Just go
Yeah,
away." Like
yeah,
I don't want to care about your life. I
yeah.
really don't want to care about your life.
I see no
Um
problems there.
yeah, yeah. I hope you I don't I'm not hateful. I don't hope you have a bad life, but like get away from
Mhm.
me and live it.
Well, what
Like go
you
away
you
from
know,
me.
the human body only has the capacity for so much, and
Yeah.
we don't actually, this is something I was talking about on on a recent episode, is that it's like, we don't. I think there's a pressure on us culturally and societally to know too much about too many people, and that overwhelms us and that shuts us down. And
It's like figuring somebody
I
out.
yeah, and I almost can't help but feel like it's a tactic. It's like a sociological tactic to keep us shut down, because the more we're overwhelmed by other people's nervous systems, the less we're able to do. And so I think that it's actually quite again, I come back to this term, like I think it's a radical trait to be like, no, I'm holding my boundary, and I'm like, it's like healthy ego,
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm worth more than this, and
Yeah.
I'm not worth sacrificing for this, like,
Yeah.
you are a human, you are an adult, deal with your, like, deal with it, find someone else, there will be someone else who will love you, that's not my job right
It's
now,
not my job. And it's
Yeah.
also like I don't want to care if you don't have that person. You know,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I do kind of want to be that person for a lot
Of
of people, and I
course, of
am.
course.
Like I have partners, I have friends, I have people that say they love me, and like I believe that. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when I used to make friends, and I didn't hear this term until the like this year, where I had a friend that was like, I don't want somebody to figure me out. And I was like, I don't know the
Mm.
difference. I don't know the difference. Like I think I do. Like I think inherently there's like an emotional side. Like I think I understand, but at the same time maybe that's just kind of what I've been offered.
Sure.
I suppose. Like I think figuring somebody out goes into caring for them. Like I think
Mm.
kind of like knowing things about somebody goes into a care.
Mhm.
At least for me. So I remember when it was Zoe actually. I was like, I don't get the difference. And she explained it to me and I was like, okay, I still don't get the difference, but fine. But I'm like, figure me out or try to. Like,
Yeah.
I think because I get so emotional and my ADHD is so chaotic and
Mhm.
I'm super impulsive that I'm like, go for it. Try to figure me out. Not like it's a
Yeah.
game, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't really.
Yeah.
But like,
Well,
yeah,
and I
figure me
think
out. And that's like, that's how I feel like I connect with people sometimes, or like,
yeah.
I can figure them out. Like, I find that people aren't just puzzles, but they are. Like, everybody has their own experiences, and like getting to know somebody and figuring what makes them tick
Yep.
is part of the fun for me. Like,
Yes.
and I do it on my own terms. I kind of do it kind of like away from them.
Mhm.
And then I do it more when we're closer, I suppose.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, doubling back to like, the comparison against like, what my therapist said, it's like I don't think that that's an unhealthy framing. I think especially because like I'm hearing your process being very different from the process I was unpacking with him.
Right.
A lot of it comes down to almost like the words we're using versus the actual behaviors. And I think what I hear is that like what you call like figuring out or the puzzle pieces, it sounds to me like it comes from an empathy because it's a curiosity. So it's not you imposing a solution on them, it's you looking for their solution or what solution works for them.
Oh, love this processing. Different frameworks, different frameworks of
Yeah,
thought.
right.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think something that is missed with friends and friendship and different levels of intimacy is nuance with neurodivergent people.
Yes.
And so one of those was like, what are some nuances for you as a neurodivergent person? Because like there's
Yeah.
like we both have ADHD, but you are also autistic,
Hmm.
and I mean maybe, but I am not. So I think that there is more nuance. Um, I mean, there's more nuance with neurodivergent people, anyways, but there would be a level of
Of
nuance that
course.
like I wouldn't understand, and I'd be interested um to know kind of like the different kinds of nuance of like how you feel close to somebody. Like, how do you feel close
Yeah.
to people, and like how do you show it in ways that only people who are close to you would be able to recognize?
Kind of pick up on. Yeah. No, I love that question. It's funny, I answered it on a recent little solo episode that came out for it's the birthday episode. But I also clocked it I clocked it as a question that I also actually want to spend like a whole dedicated mini episode on because I think that
Oh,
there's
cool.
such a world to the question.
It is. It's
Um
such a very all
yeah.
encompassing
But
question.
then
She'll get funneled down to as much as you'd like, but it's like it's huge.
yeah, well, and that's just it because it spiderwebs my brain. But I think the way you're framing it now, the way I'm hearing it, is like nuances for myself, and that's sort of a different angle on it that I didn't take or hadn't been considering. I think for myself, I'm still really in the process of unpacking how my autism shows up and unpacking the crossover between like my CPTSD, my ADHD, my autism, and then like potential any number of other things that could be popping up, and just dysregulating things, right? And so I'm still really figuring out like where I end and my personality disorders begin. And I think for myself, I'll do this thing where I will sort of mask present kind of as the type of person that I would like to be. But I'll only really be able to do that in bursts. So, I would love to be able to be like personable and warm and open and empathetic and contemplative. And, I'd love to be
Yeah.
able to do those things, but I can only really do them in these like shifts. And then I
Yeah.
need a lot of downtime and I'll have these interactions and then I'll just be like comatose on the couch for hours or days sometimes. Um, and so I think one thing for me that friends who do this for me who like let me not start there and almost like encourage me not to start there because that burns me out. So they will encourage me to like calm the fuck down and ramp up rather than spiking and then dropping, and
Yeah.
and and sort of like allowing me to get comfortable the way my unmasked body gets comfortable, which is like with a lot of stillness and slowness and small, like not small talk. I know we talked about small,
Ah,
but less intense talk, and then just sort of like staying very mindful of my body, right? And I think the other thing is that like I am so hot cold with something like touch, where like there's sometimes where I'm like, I need you to touch me right now. I'm going to die if I don't have other skin on me. Like I'm actually feeling like I'm going to have a heart attack. And then there's times where I'm like, the last thing I want on this
is for you to
planet
touch
is
me.
exactly right,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think it's not a trait that I expect of other people, but like people who can allow me and sort of hold the capacity for me to be unsure, and to sort of come to them with wherever I am. That's a trait I really value, right? Because there's times, where it's like I am really touch starved, and I will reach out to friends to be like, and while we're hanging out, I will be like kind of not gropey, but like I'll be like more touchy than usual.
Yeah.
But I try my best, and this again is a negotiation. Like I try my best to not be like a dysregulated touch, because that's not nourishing either, right? It's like finding, for lack of a better word, finding safe touch, right? And
Yeah.
like finding a way to be recharging, but also, not overexerting on either side, so
Yeah, totally.
it all comes back, like you said, it comes back to nuance. And I think it's really difficult. I recognize what a difficult friend I can be, because I can be so
Oh
squirrely,
my
and
gosh,
I
so
can be so
relatable.
hot cold, and
So relatable.
and so the people who do stick around, I really cherish, and I hope that I'm not as demanding as I sometimes feel I am for
Oh,
those friendships.
I demanding is definitely a word to describe me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm used to describing myself that way, but I don't
Mm,
necessarily think, especially like my intimate partners, like I don't necessarily think that they would describe me that way. Meh,
sure.
meh, maybe. But I think it's because I do.
Yeah.
This last year, there's been like a lot of I've addressed them, but there are like a lot of like jokes that I thought were funny at first, but were not very funny about my personality, about like coldness and whatever.
Hmm.
And one of those things, one of the words that was thrown around by one of my partners was demanding, and he was like, haha, like a tongue in cheek, and I was like, haha, no, and I got really upset. But I think I got upset because I know that I'm demanding.
Yes.
Like I
Yeah.
think I got
Yeah.
upset because it comes with this background and this like meaning of it being so negative, like a negative
Hmm.
concept.
Hmm.
When really, like, it goes hand in hand with my impatience, because I am
Yes.
impatient. Because I think it's just because I know what I want, but also like I get really impulsive, so it's like
Mm.
it's not the same every single
No, it isn't.
time.
That's exactly
Um,
right.
and
Yeah, that's
I
exactly
think,
right.
yeah, you were saying that definitely, like you hit the nail on the head about like the dysregulation of it.
Yeah,
But like at the same time, like my partners know what to expect, and like my friends know what to expect from like me
yeah,
from different situations.
yeah.
Um, so I think it's kind of regular.
Well, that's just it. And I
Yeah.
have to be able to trust that they will hold their side of the bargain too, which
Yeah.
is that they'll hold their boundaries and they won't let me overstep, even if I maybe push or if I pull away, that they won't let
Yeah.
that affect, like
Yeah,
I have to
exactly.
trust that it's a two-way street and it's not me. And that really comes down to I've been doing a real deep unpacking of myself, of my like fawn attachment style. Like I didn't realize how anxiously attached I often am, and I saw myself as a different attachment style, and I realized I'm really really rooted in fawn stuff, and I think I was resistant to that because the fawn is a really manipulative attachment style, and it because it's all about like I'm going to give you what I think you want so
Oh,
that you'll give me what I want, and then when you don't give me what I want, I'm now allowed to be mad at you, and that's so fucking unfair, and it's so manipulative, and so I'm doing a lot of personal work on myself to unpack that and get rid of those traits, or at least like adjust those traits. But it's slow, because it's like that's my personality, so it's like it's not going to happen overnight, but like being
unlearn and
mindful
relearn.
helps.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's one of those things. I When I was chatting with my partners, I we were talking about poly stuff because I'm poly, obviously, and it was just having like a check-in, just talking about both my partners, just casually on a podcast. I hope they don't find
Love it.
out. But um, and we're just doing a check-in, making sure we're good, which we were, and we I don't exactly remember what we were talking about, but I keep trying to ask questions like more open, just in a way where it there's no right or wrong answer. Because I've always had conversations about my tone. Like my
Mm.
tone is usually even I met somebody for the first time. I went on a date last week and I met somebody for the first time and I I heard it immediately. He just like happened to look over and I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Shit, I was just looking at you." And I was like, "I'm so sorry. Like I'm so sorry. I just want you to know that I heard it and I'm I don't know how to change it. At
I'm
work,
just
when I
asking
work in
for grace,
reception, I'm like, "What do you want?"
right? Yeah.
But
Yeah.
usually in my head, I'm like, "Hey, welcome in." I'm like, "Hi, what do you want?"
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yes.
we were talking about attachment styles, and I can't remember what it's called, but it talks about attachment styles within poly relationships. And wait,
Polysecure.
we talked about this. Yes, we
Yeah,
talked about this
Jessica
too.
Fern. Jessica Fern is an
And
alumni of the show.
yeah, and I like I mentioned that I know that especially growing up with a language around by not bipolar, borderline,
Mhm.
that like
Mhm.
it can be a manipulative um thing to live with if
Mhm.
you're not kind of constantly aware of what you're saying and what you're
Yeah.
like how you're feeling and
Which is exhausting.
it's so exhausting.
Mhm.
But there was still like a thing where we were both because one of my partners I like is borderline
Mm.
and we had a conversation about how to communicate because that's kind of like our biggest thing. Like we don't communicate the same way, so it's something that we have to put so much work in, which I don't like is fine. But we have
Totally, it's
to
worth it.
put intentional work into the shit, or it's just gonna fall, or we'll just
Yeah.
not talk about it. And that's what happened. We didn't talk about it, and then we fought, and like we felt like there was like a lot of resentment. And then when we got
Mm.
through it and onto the other side, I was like, see that just happened, not again. And it was my
Yeah.
fault too. Like obviously there are things I wasn't saying, and like I was being emotionally honest. So I was like,
Mm.
this thing that we just got past, no, like I was awful.
Yeah.
And like the recognizing that like the sometimes the ways that we both communicate can be really manipulative, and like the way that we frame questions and the way that we
Mhm.
yeah like interact with each other sometimes even like sometimes the passive aggressiveness just sneaks up and
Yes.
I leave the house and I'm like, why did I do that? Like
Yes. Oh,
I'm
I do that all the
almost
time.
30. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't need to do this. Like
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening? But
I'm 36 and I'm still doing it, so,
it
you know,
happens.
I'm
Like
really sorry to say, but
it's
it's gonna be
always gonna
around.
happen. And so I try really hard just to be as aware as I can. But also like it feels kind of good sometimes. And that
Oh,
is
of
the
course it
thing that
does.
I want to get past.
Yes.
Um, and this is what I want to put in that book. This is the kind of shit. Like sometimes doing something really fucking shitty feels so good, and you're like, I
Yes.
just want to do it, even though you know you shouldn't do it.
Yeah. I was unsure if I wanted to bring up the project
Bring
that
it
we're
up.
working on because I didn't think we had I wasn't sure if we had time for it, but like it is something I'm so frigging excited about.
Yeah.
And you came to me with this idea that
It was also a
I'd
joke mostly, but I'm
but
glad
but
that
but
you.
it just like it resonated so deeply with me so quickly that I was like, yes, no, it felt like a sign. I was like, no, I'm being brought this idea for a reason. I can be a part of this. I'm not taking this. I'm going to just help. Like I'm gonna like doula this into the world. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
you
that's
know, like
adorable.
but do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Let's do
Do you want
it.
to sort of
I
talk about the sort of the impetus
I
of this
do.
book
I
idea?
this is what I have actually mostly written down. Um, I haven't talked to like a whole lot of people about it. Um, mostly because it's like a new creative thing,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I am creative, but like I don't know.
Well, and it's fragile,
Um,
right? It's not fully formed yet. It's still
yeah,
got a shell. I feel like even its shell
even
is
the
still
shell is
forming.
still
So
kind of
it's like,
forming. Yeah, no,
yeah.
you're and completely right. Yeah, essentially, it's just people who have, excuse me, people who have no formal kind of education about anything within mental health um, criteria, I suppose, or the I'm missing the words. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Like they've
That's
got
them.
no what it's called, like they've got no credentials kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you got no credentials. You don't got no like abbreviations after or before your name. So,
Yeah.
um, it's just people kind of essentially. What did I say? What was the message? It was a mind map for the mind. What to do when in brackets when you're still fucked up
Yes.
between the
You
ages,
fucked
like
up
when
and
you're
you're still fucked up.
yeah, like what the fuck do you do?
Yeah.
And it's for people who have maybe you have had therapy, maybe you haven't, maybe you have been able to take medication, maybe you haven't, but
Mhm.
it's people who have had enough therapy, medication, mental health memes, self-help books,
Mhm.
conversations, fights, um, mistakes, just like enough of that shit to make us experts of like
And then
how the fuck to survive.
turning that into when you say like people, it's like because the other element of it, like it wouldn't be just written by you, it was actually going to be sort of like curated, like there was going to
Yeah,
be a call to be like
it's like
it's
an
going to be a
anthology
collection.
essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was what I was looking for, like an
yeah.
anthology of
I didn't.
submissions, you know.
I was trying to think of the word, and then I told my friend last night, and she said it, and I was like, "That's the one I was thinking about."
That's the one. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and it's just people between. So I'm 27, so I kind of wanted. It just usually it's people who are under 25 get, and
Yeah,
that's where it should like that's where a lot of
of
focus
course.
it should be.
Hmm.
But then you're kind of like, all right, now you take everything that you maybe have learned, maybe you didn't, and
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
just now you live, now you're an adult, and so
yeah.
I kind of wanted to do between the ages of like 25 to like 45. And like, what do you do when
Hmm.
you're still fucked? Like, what the fuck do you
Yeah.
do? Because I struggle with it, and I have a people in my life that kind of are getting their shit together and have their shit together,
Mhm.
and that's really intimidating because I don't think I
Yeah.
don't, but I also and like I'm also not really aiming to have my shit together. Like I kind of like the
Sure.
chaos, so like don't get me wrong, but I'm like I would love to not like wake up with anxiety every single day. Like what do you do?
Yes. Yes.
And then I have people who are struggling all across the board, who
Mhm.
are also my age. So like
Mhm.
how do you bridge these two together? Like
Mhm.
how do you how do you meet in the middle? So
Yeah.
whether to thrive or just to survive.
Yeah.
Um, so
And what's good
that's
enough?
kind of what I do. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 That's
I
kind of
love
what I
it.
want
And
to
yeah,
do.
you brought that pitch to me, and I just it sparked so many thoughts in me right out the gate that I was like, yes, we have to do this. Like
Yeah.
yeah, so listeners, be on the lookout where we're going to be putting out a call to submission soon, and we're
Yeah.
going to be curating and compiling and editing, and it's going to be fucking great. It's going to be a whole thing. We're probably going to have a whole other there's going to be we've been talking about all side streams of it, but
Oh my God,
it's
yeah.
going to be a
Before
whole
even the main
thing.
thing, we're like,
Yeah.
also we can do all of these side things.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
think
So
one of
it's
it's
turning
either going
into
to be a
something.
mind map for the mind or something like that, or my friend of mine was like, "How about I'm a piece of shit and here's why?" And I was like, I kind of love that.
I
So
love that.
whatever,
Yes,
whatever it's going to
I
be, it'll
love
be
it.
fun. It'll be fun and a little trashy.
I just want to jump to the big friend questions, and we'll
Right,
just jump into the wrap up from there, okay?
let's do it.
So as I always kind of caveat here in these interviews, the real heart and soul of this show has always boiled down to the question of I mean, it started with have I been a good friend, and then that really kind of developed into like, well, what does it even mean to be a friend?
Totally.
And again, with community, it's just this nebulous term of like it can mean any number of things. So, I put the question to you, like, what to you does it mean to be a friend?
Um, I think a lot of things. I think
Mm.
with me being demanding, and chaotic, I definitely have you watched Haunting of Hill House?
Yes, many times, and I adore it.
There's this line that she has about her being the kite and her husband being the string to like pull her
Mm,
down. And I
yeah.
think I look for balance in my life. Like I think the people that I'm not friends with anymore, whether they're in Halifax or Fredericton, where I used to live, I think part of the reason we're not is because we are both chaotic and both
Sure.
kind of like go fuck yourself kind of a thing. And I think those kind of friendships can thrive,
Sure.
but not with me. I don't want to be like the only one or something, but I think I don't know. I think I thrive on people pulling me back,
Mm-hmm.
and calling me out and
Mm-hmm.
setting boundaries with me. Because I've always been friends with people who are like me, I never really had a lot of practice with that. And
Mm-hmm.
I realize I thrive, and I really like it when people are like, "Calm down," or like, "Get your
Yeah.
shit together today," or
Accountability rules.
something like that. I really appreciate accountability because also I'm sometimes not the easiest person to communicate with, especially when I'm really frustrated. So those people who are just like, "Cut your shit," like, let's do A, B, or C. Or people who push
Yeah.
me. If I'm like, no, I'm not feeling A, B, or C, I don't really want to go out. Somebody's like, okay, listen, you've said no to me the last 3 times, which is fine, but like,
Mm-hmm.
come on.
Shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, it's something like that because I do that with people. I'm like, okay, this is 2 times, like 3 strikes. I'm like, nope, I'm going over. And I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
get you
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna do something. That's
Yeah.
what I really appreciate in people, just like pushing me. Um,
Yeah.
I love that. And just being able to do nothing with. Yeah. Those
Yeah.
are those are the two kind of aspects that I really like that balance.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
As a sort of a follow up to that question, I always love kind of leaving listeners with like kind of an actionable thing that they could try out if
Okay.
they wanted to. So, what do you think is one thing people could try doing this week to be a better friend to their community,
Um man,
other than
not
like
caring.
cut a straight person out of their life, But
Honestly, fuck. If you have a straight friend, if you're straight, get your shit
cut,
together.
cut them off.
Get your shit. No, if you're straight. If you're straight and you're listening to this, get it together. Nobody's fully
Smarten up.
straight. Yeah. Come on. Open the door. It's 2023. Open all the doors and windows. Let the gay sent in. Um You're missing out. We're pretty cool.
Yes.
Also stop caring about people all the time. Like stop it.
Yeah.
Stop. It's just too
Yeah.
tiring. It's too tiring. I feel like um the world definitely needs more kindness, but I don't think
Mm.
it needs more politeness at all.
Ooh,
I hate politeness.
yeah.
Like being polite. Um, I don't know. I don't think
I
it's a
love
bad
that.
thing, but it's fucking annoying a lot of the time. Like,
Yep.
so just slam the door instead of just close it gently, or just like
Yes.
don't hold the door for somebody, one person.
Yes.
Like
I love
just
this.
do it.
Harper,
Just
this is
go.
incredible.
Like just
Yes.
be a little apathetic sometimes. Because I think the
Oh,
world definitely needs more apathy. Like no more
yeah.
empathy, just apathy. Just get
Yes.
your shit together and get out of my face. Like
Yes.
go. So
Oh, I love it so much. Don't hold the door for one person this week.
one
I
person.
love it. I
Don't hold the door
love
for
it.
one person, especially if it's a
Yes.
guy. I don't care. I know that
Oh,
men can also feel
100%.
mental health issues and have body issues, but I'm not gonna fucking hold the door for you. I'm not gonna do it. I
I
can't.
love it.
I can't. I
Oh,
don't like handshakes. I hate when people hold their hand out. I'm like, fuck off. What?
ugh,
Are we in the
ugh,
50s?
don't touch me.
And
Yeah.
also, like, I'm not gonna hold the door for you. Sorry.
Yes.
Unless you're a mom with
Oh,
a stroller. I'll hold the door for mom with a stroller.
sure,
I'll
sure.
do that.
Yeah, if your hands are
But
full, it's different. But
a dad with a stroller? Get fucked.
oh,
I'm just joking.
oh my God, Harper, Gavin, you are just the fucking best. I adore you. I just like
Oh,
I'm so grateful that we're nourishing this friendship, and
so much
I
likewise.
feel
So much
yeah,
likewise
like
and the same and
so
totes.
excited about this project, and just so excited to like just be your friend, and I just yeah, I thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks for coming
you.
on the show, and thanks for being you.
Thank you. Thanks for being you, dude. Oh, this is
Do
fun.
you have
This is fun.
anything? Do you have anything like anything coming up? Anything you'd like to plug? Anywhere you'd like listeners to
Oh
find
my
you, or do you
gosh.
want to be mysterious?
Okay. Oh, do I want to talk more or do I want to be mysterious? That's my that's my life. I'm having a titty party soon, to
Yes.
celebrate in memoriam because my memories are going to be surgically removed very soon, and I'm so excited. And it's going to be
Yes.
funeral themed, and I'm going to get friends to read fake eulogies, and I'm going to look up Bible quotes and I'm going to rework them for something tit related.
In memoriam is incredible.
Also, it's all straight people that keep giving me these ideas. There was a straight person that said it should be funeral themed. It was a
Mm,
straight person that said I should bury a binder, and
mm.
like bury something. And it was a straight person that said it shouldn't be an obituary, it's an obituary.
Oh, stop it. They don't
I was
get to
like,
keep
get
getting
fucked. Are you
points.
serious? Like, no.
How dare you score such good points, you
I
son
said
of a
that.
bitch.
I was like, why are you having all of these great ideas? Anyways, that's what I'm doing. My album drops in a month. I'm just joking. That'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Right?
Imagine if I was
Yes.
just like, actually, I'm also a musician and like I'm this like super talented person.
Turns out last
I'm
minute. Oh, by the
famous
way.
in. I don't know why Russia was the first one that popped in my head, but probably for a different
I went
reason.
I went to Argentina. That's where my brain went. I'm famous in
Okay.
Argentina.
Belgium.
Yes, that's the
Love those
one.
waffles. Let's do it.
And that's it. Thanks once again to Gavin for coming on the show. A little update for you. They actually had their top surgery recently, and it went great. They are now resting up and healthy, and I'm actually going to check in on them shortly after this episode comes out. So keep your eyes peeled for developments on the book that we were discussing. I'm hoping to have a call out for writers in the next little while, so if you are interested, let me know, and start thinking about what you'd want to talk about when you talk about your mental health. Thank you so much for listening, y'all. If you want more updates from me and Friendless, please be sure to sign up for the weekly Substack. You're going to get all kinds of goodies, including a micro essay about my week, a new playlist of music, a new poem from my ever-expanding writing projects, as well as a recommendation to check out something that I've been fixated on that week. The latest update is actually all about Halloween, with loads of top 5 lists and fun stuff to put a little spook in your day. You can sign up through the link in the show notes, so please be sure to check that out. And it's completely free unless you choose to support me, so enjoy that. But that is it for me this week. I will be back next week with a special Halloween listener questions and answers episode that you will not want to miss. It's going to be an absolute blast, and I think you'll love it. So I hope you'll catch me back here then, but I won't worry about that yet, and neither should you, because that is then, and this is now. So for now, all I'll say is I love you, and I wish you well. Fun and safety, sweeties.